H3DF Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations. It's time for Wallow and Friends on Sports 56, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here's your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Welcome in on this very pretty Tuesday, December the 14th. Grizz were winners again last night. 126-91 defense was, just outstanding against the 76ers. They limited Philly to hitting only 4 threes. That is amazing. Will the Tigers be able to do that tonight against a team that shoots a lot of threes, either threes or layups? Alabama in town, number 6 in the country. We're going to talk with their play-by-play guy, Chris Stewart. He'll come your way in about 10 minutes or so. Jeff Moore to put a bow on the NFL. This is the first time I can say this year that I didn't think Kyler Murray looked very good last night. And the Rams did look good. They looked like a team that might be going to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. These playoffs are going to be great because any team could win, and we'll talk with Jeff Moore about that. We'll end the morning with Mike DeCourcy, and we'll see what he thinks about the Tigers, if they can right the ship tonight against number 6 Alabama. It was nice listening to Cody Topper. You always learn something from Cody. One of the things he said is that Memphis is by far number 1 in the country in fouling non-shooting plays.
I believe it.
He did not say why. I wish he had, and I'm going to have to ask him off mic, obviously. But what is it? Is it not moving your feet? Is it reaching in? Is it gambling too much? Why is it that Memphis, by far, he said, commits more fouls that are not in the act of shooting? So, maybe they'll be able to figure that out. They're going to have to do a better job against the 3 than they did against Murray State. And these guys, they have guys that shoot 10 threes. There's 2 or 3 of them that shoot 10 threes per game. And so that will be a lot of fun. Last thing in the news today, and there's a couple of things I've got to go over because one's terrible, but COVID is back. There's no question about that. The NFL with 37 positive tests. You know, the Bulls in Chicago have canceled 2 games, or I shouldn't say canceled, postponed 2 games because they'll be made up. But because they have had issues, I think they were down to 8 players that weren't positive. Now, if they're vaccinated, they're mild cases. But still, there's a period of time that you are not able to be around people. That's part of the protocol. And so they've canceled 2 games. The Blackhawks in Chicago, must be something about in the United Center. They canceled the game last night. Tulane in college basketball has canceled 2 games. Their next game is the 21st of December, and they play the Tigers on the 29th. So hopefully they'll be healthy, and that game will go on. And then there's this news that we just learned this morning, and it is longtime Memphis friend Bob Brame passing away this morning. Bob was truly a remarkable guy. He had a lot of talents, from working at Rock 103 as a DJ, also in Dallas with our friend and cohort from one of the Flynn stations, Drake Radio. He worked with him in Dallas. He then came back and was an administrator. After that, he was involved with the Memphis Americans, the first iteration. We got, I guess, the second one starting the day after Christmas. He was the director of the Park Commission. He was the director of communications for the Redbirds. He was the executive director, if I recall, of the Memphis Fire Museum. He was involved with a lot of, in the last few years, ministries, particularly with people who were trying to rehabilitate themselves after prison. He did a lot of great things, and it's unfortunate he passed away because I think he's the exact same age as I am. I believe he was either 68 or 69 years of age. Bob Brame, who was just remarkable on a lot of fronts, has passed away way, way too early. So the Grizzlies last night were, again, if you just look at the way they win, it's amazing how well they play together. Now, there were thoughts that Bane wouldn't play, Jackson wouldn't play, Adams wouldn't play. All three of those guys did play. Guess who didn't play is Philly star Joel Embiid. And, they don't have Ben Simmons anymore, or he's not playing.
On the court, at least, yeah.
So that they were missing their best piece. There's no question about that. Would that have made a difference? I don't really know. It was an interesting first quarter, a lot of paint points. Everybody was going inside to a success rate. Memphis pulled away at the end of the first quarter by 7. They really never looked back. They killed them in the third quarter. That was really when, I think it was like a 33-19 third quarter.
Right.
The Grizzlies, I said, this defense, they limit this Sixers team to 4 threes. They shot 18% from three-point range. These are pros. That's incredible. How about playing together? 29 assists. How about, again, the bench? I don't know what the average bench production is in the NBA. I could see Jay Morgan is really moving quickly to try to figure that out. I guarantee you it's under 57 points. That's what the bench came up with last night. 57 bench points. That's phenomenal. And again, guys that you didn't expect the beginning of the year, Konchar in particular, really playing good basketball for the Grizzlies, who are now 17-11. Without Ja, they are 8-1. 8 of 9 without their superstar. I don't know if there's a bit of anxiety in me thinking, gosh, when he comes back, that's going to destroy the chemistry. But this is the best player on the team. He can only help, right? If they continue to defend the way they've been, obviously they're a playoff team. I mean, look, they are now the 4th seed, and they're pretty comfortable in the 8th seed because that's a long way away. They got a lot of games on that. They only got a 1-game lead on the Clippers still. They got a 2.5-game lead because the Mavericks keep winning. 2.5-game lead in their division, but who cares? It's all about the conference and the seeding, and they still have a 1-game lead on the Clips, and I think it's a 1.5 games on the Lakers for the number 4 seed. Now, if you look at 17-11, that's 28 games, right? We're literally a third of the way through this season. I kind of think it's fair to say they should be a playoff team and not a play-in team. They should be a playoff team. And that is absolutely terrific. No one saw this coming. Remember, this was supposed to sort of be transition and a rebuild and accumulating of draft picks and everything of that nature. And honestly, it is just a fantastic story. They're on the road, Portland and Sacramento. I think we're going to try to talk with Pete Prenica a little bit later in the week, maybe on Friday. He'll be on the West Coast, and we'll get his take on all of this. I'm sitting in the Family Leisure Studios, and a reminder to you, you need to get to the Family Leisure at I-40 and Wooden Road, where arcades are 25% off just in time for Christmas. And it's very important that you get there and get on the delivery schedule so that you get there at the same time Santa does. Otherwise, you'll be late. I don't want that to happen. And I know you're going to go crazy over air hockey and foosball tables, all starting at under $150. There are pool tables, the best, state-of-the-art, and the shuffleboard tables. They're already in stock, ready for delivery. Great deals on hot tubs and saunas. Please get over to I-40 and Wooden Road. See my friends at Family Leisure, where family and fun and Christmas now are all coming together. I've known Chris Stewart. I didn't realize this. The voice of Bama football. I've known him for over 30 years. Delightful guy, and his calls were all over Twitter last week, because Bama is in the midst. Now, they're the number 6 team in the country. They are in the midst of a 4-game run where they have knocked off the likes of Gonzaga and Houston. And, Chris, your call of that ball on the rim, near the rim, was all over the place. So I got to ask you, as we start this deal, was that a goaltend or was that clean? Good morning.
Good morning. And the official said clean. I thought clean watching through my Bama view. And then seeing the replays, and also, guys who are actually paid to call goaltend or no goaltend, saying it's not goaltending, it was off the rim. And so I will say no. It was a prime example, though, Dave, of why I love college basketball, because it was a game that Bama fans and Houston fans talked about for 2-3 days. Passionately, and talked about what a great game it was and a tough ending. Obviously, if you're a Houston fan, if you're a Bama fan, it was a great finish, whatever. But both Houston, both Alabama can still go and accomplish all of their goals, regardless of whether it was called goaltending or not. But it didn't take away from the passion of the moment, the enjoyment of the moment. I love college hoops, man. Big games are fun. Big games matter, but they're not the end of your season. They don't guarantee that you're going to wind up cutting down nets when we get to March, but it sure is fun in December.
No doubt. And honestly, I thought, looking at it live, that it was a goaltend. Seeing the backboard camera, that looks like it's off the rim. So I think it was the right call. And, we always learn something. That's the beauty. And we learned from Jimmy Dykes that if there's not a call pertaining to that by the referees, so if they have doubt, they can call goaltend. That gives them the ability to go and look at the picture to let it determine whether or not it really was. They were all sure enough that it wasn't, that they didn't call it, which makes it unreviewable. And so all three of those guys, had a pretty good view of it. And it certainly looked to me on the replay that would have been the determination anyway. So it all worked out.
It did. And look, I don't blame Kelvin Sampson for being upset and wanting a review, because I'm in his shoes. I want the same thing. You got nothing to lose, for crying out loud. And it's close enough where I understand the merit behind the argument, but in the moment. But, it turned out that it wasn't in the cylinder, and turned out well for Alabama's great game. The problem is you got to turn around and play an equally or even more talented Memphis team, even though I know you guys are not at, the biggest high from a confidence standpoint that you've been at all season.
No, that is for certain. But as we just heard Cody Toppert, the assistant coach on the Memphis team, tell Greg and Eli this morning, you got to view this as a long journey, and this is the next chapter, and forget those 4 games, because if you play great these next 2 games and knock off number 6 Alabama and then top 15 Tennessee, then everybody's going to forget about this 4-game losing streak. That is the truth. Sure. This team has got to be a lot of fun to broadcast, because it's either going to be a 3 or it's going to be a layup. They average 86, so the pace is quick, and you don't know which weapon's going to get you, because you got basically 5 guys that are in double figures. This has got to be just joy for you to watch every night.
It is, and it starts with something that the fans don't think about or care about, maybe to the degree that you and I do, but we're around them, and this stuff does matter. They're good kids. They're fun to be around. They have a good time. They love to work. They're incredibly competitive. I saw that last night, just basically in a shoot around. They're doing shoot around drills, and there's competition, and that's part of what Nate Oates has instilled. There's competition, and there are consequences for the outcome in every drill that's done whenever it takes place. It's constant. There's always competition. So they love to get after it, whether it's the opposition or each other, and they are fun. The style of play is highly entertaining. The skill level is obviously tremendous of the players, and you combine all of that with the fact that they're pretty good guys, they're pretty good kids. I give no higher compliment than this. My daughter is 21 years old. She's a student at the University of Alabama. She was offered an opportunity to work in the basketball office, and there was zero hesitation on my part whatsoever to allow her to do that, because I know the kind of people she's going to be around. And so that's, to me, that's bigger than the basketball stuff, but I know that's what most people are tuning in is for what do what's the end result? How do you play? And man, are they fun to watch.
So you've been there 20 years. I hadn't known that. And Chris Stewart and I go back to when he was in Birmingham with UAB's connections, and he reminded me the first time I ever knew he was the Alabama play-by-play guy was in the Garden, and I said, "What the heck are you doing here?" And he goes, "Well, I'm now the voice of Alabama." That was 20 years ago, and you've been through a few coaches. So how would you describe Nate Oates, and how does he differ from other head coaches that you've had to work with?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate, Dave. I've had a great relationship with every coach that I've had at Alabama. Started with Mark Gottfried. Philip Pearson is the interim at the end of Mark's tenure, and then Anthony Grant. Also Avery Johnson, I loved. But Nate has been fantastic, and I'll say this, and I hope it comes across the way it's intended. It was only about 8 years ago that Nate was a high school basketball coach, and when you're around him and you deal with him, for me, my older brother was a high school coach for 25, 30 years. I feel like I'm still around a high school coach, and I say that respectfully, but he is in no way intimidated by or out of his league, obviously, by being at the highest level of Division I. He manages all of the things that are required of a Division I head coach at a Power Five, but he also is still a coach at heart, and he's a really, really good guy, good person. I'm really thankful that I get a chance to work with him and be around him, because the success on the floor everybody knows about, that's obvious, but he's a really good man, good father, husband, and somebody that I'm thankful I get a chance to be around.
And obviously analytical, because he was a math teacher when he was coaching high school. So I respect that. All right, last thing for Chris Stewart, the play-by-play voice for Alabama Hoops. You've got this kid, J.D. Davison, who is from Alabama, who was a McDonald's All-American. I was amazing. He's one of the highest-rated recruits ever to sign with Bama. Is that true? And he's not starting.
It is.
So, we've seen a bunch of guys come to Memphis that are in that same boat, right? 5-star, top 5 in the class, McDonald's All-Americans. And most of the time, those guys are used to starting. And I think they would have a hard time coming off the bench, although Imani Bates actually a couple of games ago did ask to come off the bench. This guy, Davison, apparently has accepted that role. He's behind Javon Quinterly, who's a great player, and all SEC.
Right.
How has Nate Oates been able to massage that ego to accept that role?
Well, the thing is, when he said, honestly, I've got about 7 starters. That's the truth. I've got 7 guys who are deserving and good enough to start. 4 of them volunteered to sit out at least 4 volunteered to come off the bench. And JD is one that does that. Now, you also watch, and not just the other day against Houston, but in other games as well, when it's crunch time, when it's late, he's on the floor. Ball was in Quinterly's hands on what was the last offensive possession, made a great move to the basket, didn't quite go, but then Davison comes out of nowhere, catches it, throws it down, and and gives Bama the lead. On the other end, he's the one that elevates, times it right, knocks the ball away as the clock expires. And he's doing that now on both ends of the floor. He defers to the veterans, did early, but he also understands now that the best thing he can do as a teammate is when his opportunity comes, be the guy. And, there were sequences in that game the other day when the three-headed monster is out there, Quinterly at the point, Jaden Shackelford at one wing, and really Davison at the point with Quinterly at the wing is what I should have said.
Right.
When those three are out there, they each had moments in the last 10 minutes where they had great 2 or 3 play sequences in a row. It started with Quinterly. Shaq makes 2 major threes. And then in the final 30 seconds, Davison did what we described a moment ago. Fun to watch, very unselfish, ultra talented, and it's brought an energy and electricity to Coleman Coliseum in Tuscaloosa that hasn't been experienced in a long, long time. We didn't get one that had a great season last year, and with COVID, you had 1,500, 2,000 people max in the building. It wasn't the same. It was phenomenal product between the lines, but it wasn't the same atmosphere. That game Saturday with Houston, start to finish, was as intense and enjoyable a ball game as I have called in many, many years. It was, especially in December, with kids out of school. Tuscaloosa is not a big town, and you take 40,000 students, send them home for the semester for Christmas break, it becomes infinitely smaller. But you had not a packed house, but a very well-attended game, 10,000 plus, in there, loud, engaged from the start, and it was a great setting.
Let's hope we have that kind of intensity tonight. Chris Stewart, as always, a pleasure. I can't wait to see you this evening.
Same here, buddy.
And thank you for being on with us, and we'll talk in a few hours.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Dave.
Me too. That is Chris Stewart, the voice of Bama basketball. It's interesting. We think of it as a football school only, right? Do you realize they're second in SEC history in total league wins, second in SEC history in winning percentage in hoops? That I didn't realize until I saw all of their game notes. We're going to talk football in a second with Jeff Moore. I'll let you know this portion of the show brought to you by Old Dominick. I urge you to stop in for a refreshing drink when you're exploring Memphis, finishing up a night out in style. The bar at Old Dominick, not many people realize it's not just a distillery where they make these incredible spirits. There is a bar that offers up carefully crafted cocktails to suit everybody's taste in a very elegant yet not stuffy atmosphere. So you can pull up a stool at the bar at Old Dominick, and the mixologist will make you a cocktail made entirely of spirits produced there under the watchful eye of their master distiller, Alex Castle, and she's dynamite. So whether you fancy an old-fashioned or you want to try a flight of Old Dominick products, the expert mixologists at Old Dominick are ready to serve you. And by the way, no reservations are necessary. Check OldDominick.com for bar hours. We'll see you at 305 Front Street at Old Dominick. Well, you pause for a second. NFL and a bow on week 14. Week 14 already. Remember, there's 17 weeks. Jeff Moore comes your way next.
You have opinions?
Like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad.
We want to hear them. Call or text us on the AutoZone listener line at 360-8255. That's the AutoZone listener line at 901-360-8255.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
I was getting my coffee today, Jose, and I heard there's a new way to get our jobs done at a price we want to pay for them. Grow profits and find new workers.
Sure, boss.
I downloaded the ZipCat construction app, Jose. Used the work icon, created the job description, and priced it.
Yes, boss.
Another contractor will buy it, and we got 3 days to accept and mutually approve the job, Jose.
Sure thing.
New concept. No more estimates. We control our price with ZipCat. Contractors, plumbers, electricians, etc. Find jobs listed with ZipCat. That's ZipCat. Download the ZipCat app now for free on the App Store and Google Play. ZipCat app, the best tool in your toolbox.
The Christmas spirit is here at Hewlett & Dunn. Boots, casual boots, work boots, hiking boots, fancy boots, even safety toe boots. Lots of hats to choose from Whiskey Bent to Red Dirt Hat Company. Tremendous Christmas selections just arrived from Outback Trading Company, STS Ranch Wear, good-looking duck head dress shirts, duck head caps and pants. Tons of jeans from Area, Wrangler Devil Dog, and Kimes Ranch jeans. At Hewlett & Dunn, we have a great selection of Old South t-shirts and caps, fine clothing from dress to casual to Sunday best. Enjoy choosing from OFO's orthopedic-approved shoes, boots of every size, every color, every skin. Just arrived from Santa, toy guns for the kids. Hewlett & Dunn, from our family to your family since 1961. Merry Christmas.
So this was going to be one of those Central Barbecue spots where I encourage everybody to get ribs for people as stocking stuffers.
But?
Well, I was listening to your show.
Oh, really?
Sure, I listen every day, seething with jealousy. But I heard one of your spots that had the code word big head.
Yeah, that's right.
I always thought you were probably sensitive about the big head thing.
No. I accept that I have a big head.
Huge.
Maybe we should just get back to Central Barbecue.
Well, I'm going to get back to the whole Central Barbecue makes the perfect holiday gift. But seriously, look at that pumpkin.
Let's just...
I mean, that thing could have its own weather system.
Okay, we get it. Let's get back to...
I know. Central Barbecue gift cards are a great stocking stuffer. How the hell do you even buy hats?
I don't.
Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
I'm Brian Elder, 867-0303. Hurricane season is upon us. Is your roof ready? Are your shingles laying down and sealed properly? Call me right now, 867-0303. They say you get what you pay for. That's why my opinion is free. Maybe you've got years of life left in your roof. If so, I'll tell you that. But if I find storm damage or a compromised roof system, I'll lay out some options for you. Don't let them tell you it needs to be replaced if it only needs a repair. Call me, 867-0303. Has your insurance company already seen it and rejected your claim? Maybe they're correct. Most of the time, they're not. They do tend to become more reasonable once I get involved, though. 867-0303. I'll measure your roof from outer space or BrianElderRoofing.com.
Call 867-0303. Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
We go front and center with the NFL and Jeff Moore in a minute. It's brought to you by Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, electric, and right now the buyback. You know, John was going to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and they know timing is not always right to have heating, cooling, or electrical problems. So during the holiday season, if you should find yourself in need of any of those services, just know Conway is ready to serve with financing options available to help ease that seasonal pain. During the month of December, Conway's offering their year-end heating system closeout for as low as $79 a month. That's right. Replace your heating system with Conway by the end of the year, and you can get new technology for as low as $79 a month. If that's not enough, John says, let me give you an April air cleaner, a free state-of-the-art programmable thermostat, and a 10-year parts warranty. 10 years. You know, Conway. You're always going to get the award-winning service every time you make the call, but you always get these incredible options, too. 384-3511, that's the number for Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electric. Jeff Moore, as he always does, puts a bow on the week on Tuesdays. This is week 14, which I thought had a bunch of comebacks, close games.
Yes.
And Jeff, last night, kind of crazy. I never thought that Arizona was going to win the game, but they made the score rather close toward the end. But this is the first time I could say to you, I thought Kyler Murray looked human. He did not look like Superman.
Well, you know, the Rams did a great job of keeping pressure on him. So he was always having to throw on the run or escape pressure. And of course, you know, that does sometimes lead to big plays if your secondary is not alert and someone gets open. But I think they kept him on his heels most of the game, and that's really what made a big difference. in the way that Kyler Murray played last night.
Speaking of comebacks, even though the Bucs ended up winning, the Bills-Bucs thing was pretty close. I just have to ask you. I don't know if it's coincidence. I don't know what it is, but there are some guys that own teams. When Brady was with the Patriots, I think he was like 32-3 against the Buffalo Bills. And here he goes. He throws his 700th touchdown pass. He takes over from Drew Brees for the most completions in NFL history, 7,143. And then later in that same afternoon, Aaron Rodgers destroys the Bears, and now he's like, I think he's 26-5, or 26-6. Against the Bears all time. And, the Bears actually had a 2-touchdown lead on the Packers at one point. Is there something about, those were rivalries when the Pats played the Bills for the division, and, of course, the Bears and the Packers are the longest-running rivalry. But how do you explain that kind of ownership?
I really think it's a coincidence, Dave, and that's why it's so rare. Because, Tom Brady's been on two different teams, obviously, and had that kind of dominance. And it was at the time when the Bills weren't very good. And a lot of those players, when you look back at their early wins and then the wins now, a lot of those players aren't even there, So it's ironic. I think certainly for the player, the mindset that, when I face this team, because I've had success in the past, I expect to have success in the future. That has a lot to do with it. But I just think it's just a coincidence. You look at Aaron Rodgers and the Bears. I mean, and let me say this about the Bears. I was very impressed with the way they played in the first half and the way they fought in the first half. But, this Packers offense, I mean, they're just one of the best in the league, and it's very difficult to stop them. I think, Aaron Rodgers' dominance over that team is somewhat coincidental. But it is interesting to see when two quarterbacks can dominate opponents the way those have. But you just don't see that often, and that's why I think it's just something that's uniquely rare and coincidental.
Well, it is crazy because if you look at the Bears, prior to Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, they were way ahead in that rivalry. And those two guys, and by the way, I correct myself, it's 21-5 that Aaron Rodgers is owning the Bears, 21-5. Amazing.
Right.
But those two quarterbacks have turned it around. And, with Aaron Rodgers, the thing that impresses me the most is he just knows where everybody on the field is going to be. I don't know if that's just he is incredibly smart and gifted with his arm, or he does a lot of film watching, or a combination of the two. But, you don't have time to get to him. He's not like most quarterbacks. I think he's even quicker than Tom Brady. He makes his reads so fast that even with pressure, he gets the ball out with plenty of time to spare.
Yeah, and he's a lot more athletic than people give him credit for, too. So he really maneuvers well in the pocket. He knows when to step up, when to step out. And, the arm talent is second to none in terms of the way he can get the ball to his receivers. And his receivers do a great job of being on the same page with him. And you rarely see those guys, drop passes. So, it's special that we're able to see that kind of talent, especially with the way this team is playing defensively, too. I mean, they're probably the most balanced team in NFC because, they're top 10 defense as well as top 10 offense, and that goes a long way, I think, in determining and the reason why they're 10-3 right now and sitting at the top of the NFC.
Yeah, and they are. They are now the top seed over Arizona. Tampa's got to be thrown in there 3. The Cowboys are number 4. Who do you think is the best team in the NFC at this point?
Right now, I think the Packers, are playing the best and clearly the best team. But I think it's going to be tight going down the stretch. I think the Bucs are starting to hit their stride too and playing with a lot of confidence. Arizona obviously, had a tough loss at home against the Rams last night, and I think the Rams were the better team last night. But if they play again, that Arizona offense is really good and their defense is good. So right now, I would say the Packers and the Bucs slightly ahead of everybody else. But it's a lot of football still left to be played, and I wouldn't be surprised if either one of those teams drop a game or two before we get to the playoffs.
I'm glad you throw the Rams in there too, because I think preseason I thought they'd get to the Super Bowl, and they looked pretty good last night. So I think they'll have a say in it before it is all said and done, and that was a big win for them. On the AFC side, I mean, the Patriots are the 1 seed. The Titans, even without Derrick Henry, now it helps they played the hapless Jacksonville Jaguars this past week, but they still are the number 2 seed, even without their best gun.
And that's great, especially if there is any kind of chance they'll get a fresh Derrick Henry back when they get ready to go to the playoffs. And then they don't have A.J. Brown, too. So to have 2 of their biggest offensive weapons on the sideline and still be able to maintain and be 9-4, I think that bodes well for the way that coaching staff is the job they're doing and the job that team is doing in the absence of some of their best players. But the Chiefs, the Chiefs to me are starting to be a much more dangerous team in the AFC because their defense has carried them for the last 3 or 4 games, and now it seems like their offense is starting to get their footing and playing with a lot of more consistency and not making the mistakes they were making in the past. So as I look at the AFC, to me, the team that stands out the most is the Chiefs. And of course, the Patriots are right there with the way that they're playing, and they're leading the division and the conference.
I'm with you. I mean, here comes Patrick Mahomes looking like Patrick Mahomes, 48 on the Raiders, which is not a chopped liver team. That to me was really impressive. I would think I like the Chiefs unless Derrick Henry comes back over the Titans. The Ravens don't seem right to me, and now the last seed in there are the Buffalo Bills, and I thought preseason Buffalo would be the team that would represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I don't think that is the case anymore. Josh Allen gets no time. That offensive line is not doing what it was, and the defense isn't as good as it was last year.
No, they definitely are not playing as well defensively as they played last year, and that's been a challenge because Josh Allen is just having to do too much on the offensive side of the ball. They're not getting any punch in their running game. Their passing game has been up and down. I thought it was admirable the way they were able to fight and get back into the game with the Bucs and take them to overtime. But that the way that offense, the way their defense played in the first half is just indicating that this team is just not as balanced as it's going to need to be to make a real push, I think, as we get deeper into the end of the season and the playoffs.
And we're there because Week 15 is coming. Chiefs and Chargers, by the way, on Thursday night. Some good games. Patriots and the Colts in Indy. That'll be a good game to watch. So we got a lot of good stuff. Titans are going to be at Pittsburgh, and that team seems to be about ready to be on the verge of going down, folding. So we'll see. But we've got a great Week 15 coming up, Jeff.
Yeah, I agree. I think and it starts off, I think, with probably the best game of the weekend with the Chiefs and the Chargers, because the Chargers really are surging. They're a very dangerous team. And, of course, with their quarterback, they can make it happen. And they beat the Chiefs. So, they'll play that game with a lot of confidence, I think.
Justin Herbert against Patrick Mahomes, a great way to start. And you'll hear that game right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Jeff, thank you so much. We'll talk next week.
Look forward to it. Take care.
Me too. That is Jeff Moore, former Vol, former L.A. Ram. He's brought to you in part by the Eflin Insurance team. Matt and his team of professionals do it a little differently. They do it personally. They get to know you. They know you, your family. They know what needs to be protected. They know what sort of resources you have to pay for that protection. So they take your budget and they take your needs and they marry it to the perfect fit, whether that is home insurance, auto programs, whatever it may be, life insurance, even for those of you who have small to mid-sized businesses. The Eflin team does the same way. They get to know your business, what your goals are, and they match protection with what your needs and what your budget are. Give Matt a call. His number is 901-386-4777. So if you look at 4777, that spells out GUR. There's a reason. He's a big Tiger guy. That is the way to do it. Go to a Tiger guy. He'll protect you. I promise. That's the Eflin Insurance team. Back in a minute, we get the Hall of Famer right around the corner, Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News on college basketball, including the Tigers and Bama tonight. He's next.
Happy Hour has a new time. Join Johnny Radio for Sports 56 Happy Hour now from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? If your lights seem dim, it's probably time to change them. We can help you do the job right. If you do decide to change your lights, we've got reliable replacement lights waiting for you. We've even got headlight restoration kits that can have your existing lights shining brighter. You can get whatever you need fast with our next day delivery or free same-day store pickup. Getting the job done just got easier. Restrictions apply.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Nestled in the heart of East Memphis, located corner of Park and Cherry, is a beautiful residential neighborhood. I'm here at Town Village Audubon Park interviewing a new resident, Carolyn. Share with us why you chose Town Village.
Well, if your parents or special friends need to make that big move, let me share with you my experience. It was tough for me to leave home, but then I discovered Town Village. I would like to highly recommend Town Village to you and your loved ones. After looking at all the amenities and meeting all the people and staff, I was hooked. From restaurant, bistro, 3 meals per day, housekeeping, transportation, security, health care, physical therapy, exercise room, and even a heated pool and spa. Come see us and make your new home at Town Village.
Visit us and call Daniel at Town Village Audubon Park at 901-374-7342. There's no place like home, Town Village.
Welcome to Triumph Auto Sales, where you'll have a great car buying experience. Triumph Auto Sales is your #1 source of quality pre-owned vehicles ranging from lease returns to new car trades, all at huge savings. Plus, Triumph has a full array of financing options to meet your needs. Find your next car online at TriumphAutoSales.com or stop in today at 4875 Elmore Road. Triumph Auto Sales will help you get the vehicle you want at the price you need and the service you deserve. For a great car and a great experience from a local and family-owned business, visit Triumph Auto Sales.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Always a pleasure to talk to the Hall of Famer from the Sporting News, Mike DeCourcy. The Tigers mired in a 4-game losing streak, longest since 2017. Welcome to FedEx Forum Late Night tonight at 8 o'clock. The Crimson Tide of Alabama, Mike DeCourcy. What advice would you give my Tigers tonight?
What advice?
Yeah.
Well, I think the advice would be that what they had at the end of last season in the 2 Houston games and the NIT defensively, they better have all that tonight.
Yeah.
Alabama is outstanding. Their backcourt, Jaden Shackelford, Javon Quinterly, there aren't very many better ones in the country than theirs. So, one of the interesting things to me about this season is if you look at the top teams, the very best teams, the teams that are highly ranked. Over the past 15 years or so, nearly every championship point guard in that period was either a 5-star McDonald's All-American coming out of high school or a first-round NBA draft pick going out of college,
right,
or both. And there are very few of those teams that have such a player. Alabama has one.
Yeah.
Javon Quinterly I think will end up being a first-round pick, maybe late, but I think he'll be a first-round pick. You know, he had big-time reputation coming out of high school, so that's a real advantage for them. There aren't very many teams that are really accomplished and esteemed that have that. So the Tigers are going to have to defend at an extraordinary level, and quite obviously they did not do that. Was that Friday night? I think it was.
Yes, it was
when they played Murray State.
Yep.
Murray, which it may be a surprise they came in and shot 50% on 30-ish attempts, but it's not a surprise that that's how they play. And yet the Tigers did not seem intent on running those players off the line. They seemed to lose track of the most important of the Murray State scorers. They seemed to often be flashing out at the best shooters that Murray State has, guys who've done this for 2, 3, 4 years. They weren't there on the catch, forcing them to be drivers, forcing them. They were flashing out because they got sucked in on routine action, and that just can't happen against the best, against teams that have that kind of ability. And Alabama brings in even more.
You're right. I mean, because you didn't even mention J.D. Davison, who, when he comes in, they actually move Quinerly to the wing, and now you got 3 guys that can shoot those threes. That's amazing. And you are so right. I mean, Memphis did a good job in the first half of stopping and forcing them bad shots on the perimeter, of getting in the faces, and they were like 4 of 18 in the first half, and then in the second half, Tevin Brown and Justice Hill went crazy. Tevin Brown's a pretty good story, Mike. He had 6 threes against Memphis. That is the 16th game in his career now that he's had at least 5 threes in a contest.
When I was watching the game, I mean, I don't follow Murray State's, day to day, let's be honest. But I remember him from the Ja Morant team. And I'm like, and so while he's firing in threes, I'm like, how long has he been there? Is he one of those 5th year, 6th year guys? But he was a freshman and an effective player when Ja was around, and now he's just a star. And the Tigers, it's unfortunate. The Tigers did not do a good enough job of making sure that they stuck with those guys, especially once it became apparent. First of all, you're up 14 points. So it becomes apparent that a team that is 3-point oriented is going to have only one route back into that game. So you have to weight yourself to that, and they didn't. And then offensively, of course, the woes continued. I do want to say that there was a lot of heat given Alex Lomax for the choice of his shot.
Yeah.
On the
steal. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but this is basketball, man. He's a college basketball player, and you're wide open and down 2, and you don't know if you pass up a great shot. That's not a good shot. That's a great shot. He had enough time to dribble that ball and get himself a rhythm. If you pass up a great shot in college basketball, that to me that's like a mortal sin. You see all the time in college basketball when you run an action for a guy, of course, that's not what this was, but you run an action for a guy and he gets a wide open shot and passes it up. And then like two passes later, it's a turnover. It's like the whole in baseball where the guy makes a great catch. Oh, look who's up first in the next inning. It's not necessarily statistically true, but there's an anecdotal truth to it that if you pass up a great shot, you're going to be punished for it. So, I would have been great if Alex had made that shot. But I don't fault him at all for that. That was the right move. You still have the chance to rebound it if you miss it. There was plenty of time to retrieve a rebound. It didn't happen, and they end up losing. But to pass that shot up and try to go to the rim, maybe you charge, maybe you bounce it wrong because you're on the baseline and it goes over. Maybe you miss the layup. I just don't think that you pass up a wide open shot like that, and I give Alex credit for being alert enough to make the play, and it was unfortunate that it didn't make him a hero.
I'll give 2 arguments that back yours and one that doesn't. Okay, the 2 are he just made a 3, right? The second is he made the steal. He earned the opportunity. The one argument I would have was there was 14 seconds left, and I thought and I'd have to go back and look at the video, but I thought Bates was open right at the left block. And, that could have tied the game. This one would have won the game. So, I can see them both, but I tend to lean with your argument because he was wide open and he earned it. He made the steal himself, and he was coming off of making a three. We've now seen 4 number ones. Baylor, the new one, and what they did to Villanova, holding that team, which I think was like number 2 offense analytically, to 36 points is beyond belief. We've seen Duke at number 1. We've seen Gonzaga at number 1. We've seen Purdue at number 1. So there's UCLA hasn't been number 1 yet. Alabama hasn't been number 1, and they've beaten Gonzaga and a good Houston team. So they got a resume that's pretty good. There lurks Kansas at number 7. How many number 1s do you think we'll see before this year is completed?
Well, it depends a little bit on some of that is almost mathematical and chronological. Like if Baylor falters as 1, Duke's sitting right there. So how long before they play a game they're likely to lose? You should look at their schedule, because like we were looking at it yesterday for some items in our saying goodbye to Coach K article series, and so we were looking for where's a big game they're going to play, and we can hook it to that. And it's like, they play Carolina in February. I mean,
wow.
It's now there's a Florida State game and then like maybe one other like it's a Syracuse game, and you can lose those, but they're much better than everybody in the ACC with the exception of Carolina. So they're not going to lose a lot of games, and so if they get that back, they might hold it for a while. So it may come down to that more so than how many could be.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, you just named a bunch, and I could probably throw a few more on the pile. I don't think there's a huge disparity among those teams, and part of the reason is that, like I said, a lot of them have that one weakness. Not maybe weakness, but it's not a strength. Purdue, which was number 1, they have 2 very good college basketball players at point guard, but they don't have anybody who drives things, who makes things happen. That's they even for the most part have taken the ball out of their point guard's hands and put it in Jaden Ivey, their wing, who's just a super dynamic star, and he handles a lot of their action now because their point guards just aren't that kind of player. So I think for that reason, I think there's going to be a very long list of teams when we get to March that have the potential to win it all.
I'm with you. I think the parity this year is outstanding. I just hope Memphis can be one of those in the end, because frankly, if they just put aside what's happened, and if you look at the I know they lost these last few games, but they've actually played analytically better. If they can just view this as a long journey and win one of these 2 or both these games, then you forget all about the losing streak.
I agree with that. I look, I still know there's talent there. And like I said, Alex has not been a revelation at point guard. I mean, he's a good, solid college basketball player and has problems being a dynamic presence on offense. So you have to find ways around that. And they have found a few, but they haven't been consistent enough in execution. And not just at the point, but all through their offense. Yeah. The guys have to be more consistent about cutting, about screening, about locating open teammates. I'm amazed by how few good shots a guy like Landers Nolley gets now, who is, I still think, one of the just in terms of pure shooting, one of the top players in college basketball. If you put him in a gym and give him a rack of balls like in the three-point contest,
that's true.
I mean, he's going to be there.
I watch him in warm-ups. They hit 45 out of 50. They do.
Yeah, he's that good. I'm telling you. But
no,
he's
I
not
agree.
going to be that good. Last year it was because he took bad shots. Now it's because they don't get him any good ones.
Yeah. I'm with you, and I really believe, like Duren in particular, who can be a dominating player, has to learn where he really needs to be. He ends up early in rotations getting the ball in the proper position, and then he gets pushed out. As big as he is, he gets pushed out, and I don't think he hasn't quite figured out where he needs to be to really be offensively a contributor. We'll see tonight. Here's an opportunity for sure. As always, Mike, thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we'll do this again next Tuesday.
Look forward to it, Dave. Thanks.
Me too. That is the Hall of Famer from the Sporting News, Mike DeCourcy, brought to you in part by Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. Ken knows you're going to either renovate and get all those modern amenities in your beautiful old home that you love the location, or maybe it's time for that dream home. Maybe you got some land in your family. You're not sure how to utilize it. Well, Ken knows. He's been doing it for 2 generations. Give him a call, 751-1632. Maybe you first want to go to kengarland.com, see what he's all about, see the stuff he's built, and then you'll want to talk to him. You'll love it. He's got your answers at Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. Thanks to Mike DeCourcy, Chris Stewart, Jeff Moore. We'll do it again tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.
The Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat Big Finish sales event is back, and we're ready to put you in a new ride today. 2021 Chrysler 300 Touring, $469 a month.